The slick stick was the most simple idea. It was the easiest to execute. It was the quickest to execute, and it was the least amount of capital. And it's been the most successful by far. Everything would go viral. I'd go to bed, I'd wake up, we'd have like 3 million views and 30 grand in sales. I was constantly chasing my tail for months. We'd sell 5,000 units in a week. That's insanity. I always knew I was different. I wasn't very good at school. Felt like I was such a big dreamer and believer and had so much ambition. We've sold over 500,000 units.
That existed because you created it. Do you feel proud of yourself?
I do. We've just moved into this beautiful new office. I walk in the lift every day and I'm like, I've created this. I'm definitely proud of myself, 110%. But the word failure, it doesn't exist in my mind. I know I will be successful. I know my brand will do incredibly well. Whether it's this one, the last one, or the next one, when you believe in your ability to succeed, it's inevitable. It'll happen.
Just quickly before we get started, guys, if you've been enjoying the podcast, can I please ask that you consider leaving a 5-star review and subscribing on whatever platform you've been listening. It really helps the podcast grow.
All right, Mia, we're finishing it off with a banging absolute powerhouse. We just realized we've been here for 3 days, but the podcasts have all been in the space of essentially 24 hours. So podcast number 4 in 24 hours, going to finish it strong.
Best till last.
I know, best till last. So Mia Plessic. Is it Plessic really? But you just say Plessic?
That's correct. Aussies say Plessic, but properly.
What do you eat? Croatian, Serbian?
Croatian.
Yeah. All my friends, I'm from like Western Sydney. So all my friends are like Serbs, Croatians, Massos. So
all crazy.
Yeah. But 6-time founder, you would have learned a lot from your successes, from your failures. But we're going to focus on obviously your journey with the Slick Stick creation, building Slick Hair Company, all the amazing stuff you've done then. We'll get into all of that. You've done amazing things in retail space, not just e-com. So we're going to get into all that sort of stuff. But I just want to touch on, as I said, 6 times founder. What were some of the other businesses you'd launched along the way before you come to Slick Stick?
Oh gosh, it feels like a world.
And when did that start? When did you start your first brand?
I was 22. Mm-hmm. So my first business was Pearly Whites Australia. It was an in-home teeth whitening kit. One of the first.
Yep.
It's funny when people say 6 times founder, I like to say 5 times failure leading to the business that I'm in today. But yeah, look, I've had a few product-based e-com businesses, ranging from all different markets, from teeth whitening to, subscription-based tampons to cold press juice company, which was more of a bricks and mortar sort of business. And everything in between. I think I came out of high school and I just wanted to work for myself. I wanted to be able to create, and it's so cliche, but I wanted to be able to create my own future. Mm-hmm. So I thought that in order for that to be the case and to be my destiny, I needed to be my own, boss, you know. So I started the teeth whitening business. It did really well. And by really well, we did about $1 million rev in the first couple of years. But the problem was I had a really bad business partner and it all went belly up. So got out of that, sold my shares, started a juice company, sold that off. So it was kind of dabbled in a lot of business opportunities, I guess, in my 20s. And I call them my business degrees.
Exactly.
They were my degrees. They were my learnings. I didn't come out of any of those businesses with a lot of money, but I came out of those businesses with a world of knowledge. So I guess that's brought us to here, to Slick Hair, which I founded 3 years ago.
Yeah. So it sounds like, did you always know that you wanted to start a business, even like throughout younger when you were in school? Did you go to uni or anything?
I started an exercise science degree when I was fresh out of uni. No idea why. I think everyone was doing it in Geelong, which is where I grew up. And I was a PT for a couple of years, kind of just to make some money. But no, I didn't know that I wanted to be a business owner, but I always knew I was different. Mm-hmm. I always knew that my brain worked differently to all my peers. I wasn't very good at school. I swear I'm undiagnosed ADHD. I just think that I felt different. I knew there was something different about me growing up. And I still to this day look back at my primary school, high school, and I just remember just not feeling like I would fit in, but also felt like I was such a big dreamer and believer and had so much ambition. But now that I'm in my 30s, I'm like, there's something, I'm different. There's something there.
I can relate to that in so many ways. Like I don't know about you. Did you have like family or anyone close to you that were starting businesses?
No,
neither did I.
No.
So it's like we have
Came from a very humble family.
Same.
with, you know, just normal family.
And like growing up, I always went to public school. So even like it wasn't really spoken about starting your own business. When I thought about starting your own business, it was like being a barber or like being a tradie. Like that's what I didn't realize what the world is like, what all the possibilities are. So you have to go through this stuff. Like I was the same. I was really ambitious in school, but I did really well. So I did law because that my brain back then, I thought that's the biggest, coolest thing you can do.
If you're smart, be a lawyer or a doctor. Yeah.
I lasted like 2 months in uni.
Yeah, right.
And then I've never gone back, but it's the same thing. Right now, my worst like nightmare come true would be like to have to do a 9 to 5 for like the rest of my life.
Nightmare.
What would that be like for you? The thought of going back to do like a 9 to 5?
Honestly, it's painful anxiety. It really is. And I don't like to say it very often because obviously I employ people that work 9 to 5. So I try and make our workplace as fun and enjoyable as possible to make them in that 8 hours enjoy their life.
Yep.
But the thought of me having to go and work for someone else, I just don't think it would ever work. I mean, all of my casual jobs growing up in my teens, I got sacked from all of them because I'm just too opinionated. I don't like being told what to do. If you tell me to do something, I'll do something completely opposite. That's just my personality.
Yeah.
So I don't know how long I would last in a 9 to 5 now.
And that's the thing as well. Like I don't say that judgmentally to anyone that has a 9 to 5, not at all. Like most people will, but like I say that because we're going to, very soon in this podcast, we're going to talk about all the challenges, all the fucking hard things about it. But still, there's something inside someone. And if you're someone listening that feels that itch to do it, just try. Like it's not for everyone, but like I would rather work 16 hours a day for my own business than 8 hours a day, you know, doing that stuff. So it's just like, it depends what's in you. And it's funny you said undiagnosed ADHD. I'm pretty sure I'm the same. And I just found out like from TikTok, essentially all those clips. I'm like, what?
I follow these pages. I'm like, they're talking about me.
Yeah. Interesting. Super interesting. Yeah. But I want to talk about some of the lessons that you got from these failed businesses. Now, one thing, an article I was reading that you said, and I feel like it's such a powerful thing that you experienced, but also made everything harder. Like having success or like a good amount of success with the first business, making $1 million with your first business, early 20s, then sets the expectation for every other business that you start that, it's just going to be the same thing. What was it like navigating those other businesses with the expectation of you can just make $1 million like that?
Great question, because I remember when I exited the first brand, I went into my second and I had this level of standard. And that standard was to make X amount of dollars in X amount of months. And if you don't hit that, you think you're instantly failing. One thing I definitely want to, mention with the first brand, yes, we turned over that revenue. It wasn't profit. But I guess when you see hundreds of thousands of dollars in the bank at the age of 22, you're like, shit, this is easy. Let's just do this. Let's just, copy and paste this blueprint over and over again. But unfortunately, that's not always how it works.
Exactly. But think about, you said things started to go belly up. Obviously, there wasn't the best partnership dynamic in that business. What sort of things started to go wrong? What things can kill a business? It's important for people to understand.
It's interesting because I look back now at 22-year-old me starting that business, and that business partner at the time, the things that he did, weren't great. But at the same time, I, as a more mature person who's been in business for a while now, I can kind of understand why he did those things as well, because I was naive. I had no fucking idea what I was doing. I was just this young girl with a good idea, but had no idea how to run a business. So he kind of saw it as an opportunity to make a lot of money. And he's like, I'm going with or without you. So I can kind of see now why it happened. That's not to say that what he did was right, but it kind of makes sense. But, through that and all the legality side of things, I came out with a business degree from that business. I really did. A business finance, business law, I swear to God, all of the above. So, I'm very grateful for the opportunity to go through those hurdles because it taught me so much.
Yeah, it's always the challenges, the things you don't realize going into a business that teaches you the most for the next thing you do. Like going into launching Happy Skin, like I didn't realize how much time I'd be spending on the phone to lawyers, solicitors, about different things, issues, trademarking, all that stuff. But I feel like it's kind of good to go into it naive because you just have this energy and you have this optimism to move forward. But there are things you got to be aware of. Now, I've had everyone on the podcast. You're the first one so far. Obviously, we had Priscilla who'll be coming on, who's a solo. everyone else has been in either duos or three. Now I've been in businesses by myself and business with business partners. Why do you feel like for you that you've had the best results and you enjoy doing it by yourself the most?
Well, out of all the startups, this is the first one I've done solo and it's the one that's succeeded the most. Now, I'm not saying that that's because I know more than all my business partners in the past. I just think it probably comes down to my personality, and working in partnership probably is going to end up in a similar scenario to me working a 9 to 5. Look, I think it's a case of being able to really, you know, I'm a very visual person. I can see the end goal of Slick in 5-10 years time. I can see that. And if you don't have a partner that can see it as clearly as you can, there's going to be some head to head. There really is. And I think when you're quite a controlling person, and you like things to go your own way, I don't see that as a bad thing. It just means you're very meticulous with what you want. And in business, if the person you're doing business with isn't the same, you know, you're gonna butt heads. There's
no right or wrong ways to do it in business, whether it be going solo or doing it together. Like the guys we had on last night, the Pure guys, they've been extremely successful as well. And it's like they speak about it openly. They're talking about it on the podcast. It's like the first 2-3 years we would fight all the time, argue, debate, but
disagree,
yeah. You know. And they said only in the last 6 months when it got really bad at a point, they locked each other in their rooms and just spoke for 6 hours to work it all out. But until then, and it's like, that's a business that's doing really well. And it still happens. Now, you've obviously learned a lot from your experiences. For anyone that is considering going into a business with a partner, which I mean, I still love doing. I'm a very collaborative person. I'm similar in I can be quite particular with things, but I love collaborating. And I'm not going to tell someone you should or shouldn't do it with a business partner. But if you are going to be doing it with a business partner, what sort of considerations do you think should be made? Because I've seen it end messy so many times.
It always comes down to money. I find in terms of my previous partnerships, I think where I've gone wrong is that, you know, you're usually friends with the person first and you're like, oh, let's do this business together. And all of the hard conversations that you need to have and that you know you need to have, you don't have them at the start. You just kind of go, oh, it'll be all right.
Yeah.
So whether that's how much equity you are having up front, how much capital you're both willing to invest, how much capital one partner is willing to invest over another. What does that person bring to the table? What do you bring to the table? And if it's not structurally in a contract from day one, before you even make your first dollar, you're asking for trouble. And that's where I went wrong. You know, we had a startup, I had a business partner, you know, they were prepared to put, 20, 30 grand in, but there were no conversations about, okay, we're going to need a capital injection in X amount of months. We're going to need potentially a loan here. And once they put that money in, they're like, wipe their hands. My job's done here. I'm not putting another dollar. That's kind of where we clashed heads.
Yep.
That was the problem.
Even though it's hard when you're just starting off, if you only have 10, 20 grand to build a business, you don't want to spend $2,000 on a shareholders agreement, whatever it costs. But if you can, you have to, you know what I mean? It makes things so much easier moving forward. Now, before we get into everything Slick Stick, what do you think from all your business experience moving in the past before Slick Hair Company, what do you think is the biggest lesson you took from all of that, from your business degree on the tools?
Everything needs to be legalized, have your contracts in place and do things properly from the start, because businesses can start as hobbies and you can make no money at the start. But if you have a vision of what you want that business and brand to be in the future, you need to back yourself and you need to invest a few $1,000s and do it properly from the beginning, especially if you're going to be in partnership. That would be my advice.
And as well, while it is additional funds people have to put in, it's like anything. If you put the more skin you have in the game, the more determined you're going to be to make it happen as well. So it keeps you accountable and gives you that extra motivation. Now, on the flip side of that, what do you think, what success or what thing that you did right from all your experience in the past have you taken into Slick and it's helped you build it to what it is?
I think the number one, it's very cliche, but it's self-belief. The word failure, it doesn't exist in my mind. As cliche as that sounds, I know I will be successful. I know my brand will do incredibly well, whether it's this one, the last one, or the next one. When you believe in your ability to succeed, it's inevitable. It'll happen.
Where do you think your self-belief comes from?
I have no idea. I really don't. I think maybe it might come from the fact that if this doesn't work and I do quit or fail, I'm back to a 9 to 5. And the thought of that again, like I said earlier, it just doesn't sit well with me.
All right, guys, just quickly, I've got some news. I've spent close to the past 18 months building the ultimate program that takes you through the complete process, and I mean the complete process of launching and scaling your very own e-commerce brand from zero all the way up to $1 million plus per year. And now with this program, what you're going to get access to is 15 modules with over 100 training videos and 23 hours of in-depth content, taking you through everything you need to know to build a successful e-com brand. And this is the important part. This isn't just stuff that you can look up on YouTube. This is stuff I've taken from real lessons and experiences building Happy Skin Co. from zero all the way up to an 8-figure per year brand. You're going to get access to loads of custom tools, templates, and calculators that I've used to build and run Happy Skin Co. There's going to be one-on-one mentoring with myself and other expert coaches. And there's also weekly group Q&A calls with myself to make sure you're feeling completely supported throughout the entire process. And now what I've learned from consulting to everyone from people starting their very first e-commerce brand all the way up to brands already doing 7 figures plus per year is that there's a process and a framework to follow if you want to be successful with e-com. Now, if this is something you're interested in, hit the link below and go to join.viralbrandbuilder.com. All the information's there and you can book a call directly with me. Otherwise, send me a DM and we can chat there. Anyway, let's get back to the pod.
Were you as confident in yourself in the first business as you are now?
100%.
Yeah.
Even though I had no idea what I was doing. I still don't think I really know what I'm doing, to be completely honest with you. But yeah, 100%.
Yeah, that's wild. It's hard to put a finger down, but you've got a really close relationship with your grandparents as well.
Very.
Right? I feel like for me, that was definitely a big part, but like the unconditional love and the type of relationship you get from your grandparents is like different to like a normal parent. I feel like
I agree.
If you're close to them growing up and you spend a lot of time with them, I feel like that helps. You know what I mean? Being surrounded by so much love and support and like, I'm sure they only told you can do it, you know what I mean? And championed you that whole time.
Yeah, you can do anything.
100%.
Yeah.
Now, moving into Slick Stick as it started, where did you get the idea from? You said it was about 3 years ago. Talk to me about the process, whatever inspired you to get that idea. And then what were the next steps? Because so many people get stuck at the idea phase.
Totally. So for me, with all of my businesses or all my products that I've ever brought to market, it's always been a case of find a solution to an everyday problem, whether that's teeth whitening at home because you don't like the dentist, you don't want to spend $500 on whitening your teeth, or you get your period every month and you always forget to buy tampons and you always find yourself in that situation. So we created the subscription where you get it every month. It's always a solution to a problem. And the Slick Stick was exactly that. But the best thing was no one had done this particular solution before. Mm-hmm. And I always laugh because out of all the businesses that I've started and the products that I've brought to market, the Slick Stick was the most simple idea. It was the easiest to execute. It was the quickest to execute, and it was the least amount of capital.
Wow.
And it's been the most successful by far. So I find that incredibly funny because you hear of these people who are starting a business and they take 3-5 years to get the business off the ground, and product development and market research, and you're 150, 200 grand deep before you've even made $1. Whereas I started Slick with like $250. Wow. It was like straight off the bat, I just jumped in. Like
there's such an advantage to being first to market. Like
you can't compare.
Yeah. Like, and like I do a bit of like mentoring, consulting, people starting businesses. And obviously one of the best questions people come to me is like, oh, what product do I launch? It's like, there's a lot of different things involved in what I think makes a high potential product. But like the number one thing is like if it's untapped, and look, not everyone's going to be first to market, but if you can get in really early, like if you were early with the teeth whitening, if you stuck to that, you probably could have made a lot of
we would have
money.
been High Smile.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So what do you look for? Obviously solving a problem, the solution, like you said, but do you have anything else that you consider in terms of like a criteria for like, if let's say you sold this or whatever, you move on to the next business, what sort of things are you thinking about? Like what boxes do you want ticked for a new product that you'd build a brand around?
For me personally, if I would buy the product and I'm the demographic, then it's a product that I would sell.
Yeah.
I wouldn't get into men's grooming or men's clothing because I don't know that market. Mm-hmm. So I like to sell what I would buy. And when I saw the Slick Stick, it was a white label product being marketed out of Korea. When I saw that very ugly product, I was like, that there, it's the next light bulb.
Yeah.
Like that was a light bulb. And I remember exactly where I was when I saw the ad. I was driving back from my parents' house down the coast. It's probably on my phone, driving, great, stuck in traffic. And I saw the ad and I was like, that is genius. If that works, like that's a game changer. So I bought one. 3 weeks later, it arrived in this little white satchel with, Asian writing all over it. And I tried it and I was like, this is elite. Like this is the best thing I've ever used because I have the worst flyaway hairs in the world. So I was looking for a solution that wasn't hairspray, it wasn't hair wax because, as a girl, when you put wax in your hair has that sticky, crunchy residue, right? And then you got to wash your hair. And I don't wash my hair every day. I wash it once a week, right? Yeah. So for me, it was like, I want a solution that I can slick those little fuckers down, but I don't have to wash my hair at the end of the day. And that was the solution. It worked. It genuinely worked.
What's like the substance in it that is it like a gel? It's more of a serum.
Okay. It's more of a serum-based product. So it doesn't leave the residue in your hair.
And how long did it take? Like, so it's so funny. Like, the girls we just had on, the sisterhood, like because they're creating an innovative product that it's awesome to do, but it takes so long. They spent 3 years.
R&D, market research.
Tens of thousands of dollars. The Pure You boys was over $100,000 because they're coming up with new formulations. And if you've got an idea or a problem you're really passionate about, awesome. But like same thing with Happy Skin Go. Sometimes the most simple idea is the best.
Yeah.
Like we saw an ad, we were I don't know if there were any brands anywhere else in the world, but we were definitely like the first to market that I was ever aware of for like an at-home IPL. Mm-hmm. But the thing we just saw was a weird, they still sell them now, like those weird shaver devices with a light on it. Just an inspiration from a random man. We thought, wait a minute, is that a laser hair removal thing?
Yeah.
It wasn't. And this is how green we were back then. Wow. I didn't even know what Alibaba was. I didn't know AliExpress. I didn't know how to find a manufacturer. So we spent like a month going down a rabbit hole of like trying to find product engineers to create this thing. And I don't know how we found out about Alibaba, whatever. I'm like, this is just a game changer.
Game changer.
But it's like this information when we started, and you're even many years before me, there was no information. There was no playbook, you know what I mean, about where to go, how to start. And I know something building businesses so many times, you start to develop like a bit of a blueprint for like how you approach, setting up a new brand. Before we go into the specifics of the early days of Slick Stick, what is that framework? Like what are the key steps that you look for when you're going to build a brand?
Alibaba's my Bible.
Yeah.
And it's kind of frowned upon in the industry, I think, and not a lot of founders will admit to it. But I think in terms of market research and product research, it's the best place to start. I wouldn't know now. I would, because now I've got contacts that have, access to thousands of factories and manufacturers around the world. So I don't go to Alibaba anymore. I have my own company that assists me with product development. But back then I had no clue. And that 100%. Was my savior. I wanted a product. You type it in Alibaba, it's there. You speak to the manufacturer. You want to customize the formulation. You want to customize the packaging. They'll do it for you. It's like the Bible of business.
Exactly. I don't understand. It's just a marketplace where you can connect with manufacturers. And I'm the same now. Like I've got relationships in China from doing business there for many times. So I don't have to go to there. But if you don't have any relationships in China, how are you going to where are you going to start? Like it's just a market and just for product research, there's so much potential there. Now you said you started it with very limited money. How much was your original stock that you bought? How many units?
I think it was like between $250 and $500.
Wow.
Yeah. And the way I made that happen, because obviously for anyone out there who's ever looked into starting a product-based business, you've got minimum order quantities if you want to customize packaging, right? And that's usually around 5,000 to 10,000 units. So for me, I went and bought the white label version of the Slick Stick and I just wrapped a label over the existing branding.
I remember seeing your stories sitting on the floor.
I literally look back and I'm like, holy shit, I can't believe I did that. But for the first probably 2,500 units that I sold, if you peeled off the label, it would have had Asian text underneath. Wow.
Do you still have any of those?
Yeah, I do.
That's the best.
Yeah.
What about, did you have a box for it or how'd you send it out?
Literally just in a satchel, a plain satchel. And I had like a little Dymo label printer and I used to type in the address and print it out on the little one because I obviously didn't do enough volume to warrant an AusPost eParcel account. Yep. So I would take it to the post office, put stamps on it, which is really weird because I look back and obviously I'd had a lot of business experience prior, but it's funny how when you start a new business, you've got to start from scratch again. Mm-hmm. So even though with Pearly Whites, we had an eParcel account and we weren't doing it like the caveman days, like typing it out. I still had to go through that process with this business. So it felt like it was my first business again, like learning again, solving problems.
I've spoken to so many successful business owners now, and it's like everyone has the story of like, you got to be scrappy at the start.
Have to.
Like once you've made money and you're launching new products, yeah, you can do things the easy way. You can customize everything. But at the start, like you don't have the money to do that. Like I don't know if we have them. I don't have them. So we probably don't. I wish we had them we ordered 110 units for the start, which is pretty expensive because we got an expensive product, but we got this packaging done and then it arrived and we're just like, oh, it's so bad. It's so ugly. So we got, and it's hard because that was like a decent sized box. We got printed from like this printing company, this wrap, and then we had to wrap over the old packaging, fold it in so it's like the first 110 customers would have the OG, like. I
love it.
It's like, you don't have money to do that stuff. And like people kind of like use that as an excuse.
Totally.
But you clearly didn't do that. Like in your opinion, what do you think stops people from like going from idea to actually making it a business?
I think it comes down to they think that it needs to be perfect. And I live by this saying, I don't know who said it or who said the quote, but it's something along the lines, if you're not embarrassed by your first concept or prototype, then you've launched your business way too late.
Yeah.
And what I mean by that, if you're spending 2, 3, 5, 10 years doing, research and development, products development, packaging concepts, it takes months, years to do that. Just do it. Just start. Who gives a fuck what it looks like at the start? If you've got a good product, you will do well. You will sell. You will move that product. And that's what we did with the Slick Stick. I look back, it is so embarrassing. Dylan, I'll show you after this conversation. It was so ugly. The packaging is like, I cringe when I look at it, but it's sold. People don't care. If it fixes a problem, who cares?
It's just about getting the MVP to market. And
Absolutely.
It's like you can spend, even like you said, to that point, obviously it's the best way to do it. But like, even if it takes you if you want to keep working on that perfect version in the background, you're going to learn so much more about business by actually being live and trying to sell these things anyway.
Absolutely.
You can feed that feedback, those wins, those losses, the things that work, didn't work, back into that final version of your product anyway. And it's not just the product. First website, it was funny as to look back on your first ads, but it's what gets you to where you are today. Now, talk to me about how you started to scale the brand so quick, because I remember like you did it all from your living room of your place for like the first 6 months or whatever. So we were like
early days COVID when we launched. It was February 2019, I believe. So we're in lockdown here in Melbourne. You couldn't go 5Ks from your house.
You had a lot of time.
Officeworks was shut. Like we couldn't do anything. So I started sharing the journey of starting this little small business from my apartment on TikTok. And I guess this was early days TikTok when everything would go viral. The virality percentage would be so high. Like so many videos would go viral. So I'd, do a packing video, something so basic. I'd go to bed, I'd wake up, we'd have like 3 million views and 30 grand in sales.
So crazy, huh?
And then I was like, shit, that's insanity. And we got to a point where we didn't have the stock that we were selling, but of course I'm not going to stop selling. That's ridiculous, right? You just got to bat your eyelids and say, I'm really sorry, we're out of stock, but stock's coming soon. So I was constantly chasing my tail for months. We'd sell 5,000 units in a week and I didn't have the stock. I'd have to wait for it. I'd have to air freight it to Melbourne. Cost me a fortune during COVID.
You would have paid a fortune.
Yeah, fortune. But it all worked out in the end. And I think obviously combining viral videos on TikTok, I had a decent sized Instagram following. I didn't share that for quite a while on Instagram. When I did.
Were Reels already around then?
No, I
never know when Instagram Reels are.
Yeah, neither do I. TikTok videos going viral. Then I started to invest some of the money into some influencers and kind of testing that situation. And it was insane. Every influencer that we worked with, no matter who it was, we get like a 4 times ROI. And it was just like, this is so freaking easy.
Yeah. It's not always like that.
No, it's not. But because the product was so unique and it was affordable and it was, now accessible, people were just lapping it up.
How long was the lead time? Like how long were you waiting in between? Was it like 4 weeks or?
Yeah, I think like there was definitely some customers that would wait 3 to 4 weeks for a product for sure.
And how did you, because we had to do the same thing. It was probably 4 or 5 months in because like we had 110 were for influencers, 100 were for customers. It sold out in like a week and a half.
Wow.
Then all the money we'd buy like 300 and then like 1,000 if we could, always as much as we could afford. But it took almost 6 months to get to the point that we were fully caught up in stock, to the point that now, okay, we have stock for the next month worth of sales. How did you navigate that period, and how long did it take till you had like, okay, I've got stock in there?
Yeah. Look, I think it was probably 6 to 12 months before I really started to, I think it was a fear as well. It was that fear of failure, in the sense of I don't want to go spend all of my money on stock because what if we don't sell it?
Yeah.
So I was trying to be conservative. So I remember early days I would probably have needed to order 10,000, but I only ordered 5,000 just in case I didn't push the stock. Now it's obviously a different story. Like we're ordering 50 to 100K units at a time, and we have to do that quite regularly. But back in the day, I was really nervous to buy stock.
I was the same, but like we also like knew, like we could sense that we needed to grab this opportunity before all the competitors come in, which we'll speak about soon, because I know what it's like to be first to market and have everyone trying to copy you, stealing your ideas, ripping your content, all that sort of stuff. But once you finally caught up, was it because like everyone thinks, oh, you got a business, look at Mia, she's packing a few hundred orders a day. They expect that you've just got bank and bank and bank. How long was it to the point that you could actually start paying yourself like a proper wage?
I think I put myself on a salary after about a year and a half. Yeah.
It's not as quick as people think.
No. I was actually a part-time nanny for the first probably year and a half of Slick. I was babysitting for a family down the road 5 days a week. I'd get there at like 7 a.m. The parents were corporate, so they'd leave. I'd look after the kids all day. I'd get home probably 9, 10 o'clock at night, and then I'd work on Slick at night.
Wow.
Yeah. And I was getting paid like $30 an hour cash. And that's what was paying my mortgage initially. I've got a lot of stories like that, you know, growing up, even, you know, from 18 onwards. I've pretty much always worked for myself since I came out of school, apart from little casual jobs like nannying here and there. But I would always figure out a way to pay my rent. I remember when I was like 20, I started making concrete pots and painting them and then going to the market on a Sunday and selling them. Like, I have to sell 5 of these pots to pay for my rent. And I'd always make it work. I don't know how I would. Then I started making cushions, like these really cool cushions, and selling them on Facebook Marketplace. I always found a way to make it work.
You can always find a way. Like even just like if you're really desperate, like man, people flipping stuff off eBay and Facebook Marketplace, you can make. I
still do it.
Yeah.
I'll see something on the side of the road. I'll take it home. I'll give it a lick of paint because I'm very DIY.
Yeah, what's that called? What's that thing called? Like upcycling?
Upcycling.
That's the one.
I still do it. I think it's so much fun. But yeah, anyone can make money. I mean, there's some really cool videos from Gary Vee where he's worth a lot of money. He'll still go to garage sales and find things and flip them on Facebook Marketplace.
And that's when he's the happiest.
Totally.
Stuff. And it's like on that stuff as well, no matter, like it might look hard, but you just got to look outside the box. There's always a way. I think there's 2 reasons. There's many, but there's 2 reasons that I think a lot of people don't do it. First one is like you said, you'd always find a way. One, I really think a lot of people don't want it enough.
100%.
Because if you do want it enough, or if you need to do it, then you'll find a way to make it work. Like I physically couldn't work a job I hate, like working off. I did sales in the corporate world for like almost 2 years before we launched the business. And then I was working that when we launched the business. Thank God it didn't take long to quit. But I was depressed.
Miserable.
Not depressed, but I hated work.
You feel like you failed yourself because you're spending so much of your life doing something you don't love.
Yeah.
But I think a big part of it is not enough people are willing to take the risks. Whereas me personally, I'm such a risk taker. Like it's probably more bad than it is good. I'll get an opportunity. I'll give you an example in Slick. We pitch a product or a new product to a retailer and we don't even have a yes from them yet, but I'm so confident that they'll say yes that I'll just go and buy the stock, which is so risky because we're talking 50, 100, 150K PIs, right? So I will go and buy that stock, get the invoice, know that that's payable in the next 60 days. And I haven't even got a yes from a retailer yet. Like that is so risky.
Crazy.
And even my partner, he has been working in sales for 10 years and he's a gun. But, you know, like he'd obviously love to do his own thing one day. Like who wouldn't, right? He's that type of person. And I say, just quit. Just quit. He's like, I can't just quit. I've got 5 mortgages to pay for. I'm the type of like, fuck it. I'm quitting. I'll figure it out. I don't know how. I'll figure it out. That's my personality.
You're an extreme example of risk taking, but also like for a lot of people, it's like for me, everyone's like, because I was working like these jobs, getting like $1,000 a week, had like pay you all you, like I'm not saving that much money. I had like, when we launched the business, put 10 grand in each. Once I put the 10 grand in, I probably had like 2 or 3 grand in my bank account. And so everyone's like, that's such a big risk. I'm like, how is that a big risk? What am I going to do? Work corporate for 10 years, save up 100 grand to get a mortgage and be unhappy. Like the risk is not doing it.
Absolutely.
So it's like, if you can, the risk is not trying. Like who wants to get to their deathbed and be like, fuck, I just played it safe. It's like, the hard thing is like, it's conditioned in everyone from so young through the schooling process, respecting authority, doing what you're told, following this process. And for a lot of people, it generally does work, but so many people, it doesn't fucking work for them.
Yeah, but we're not trained in school. And I've watched some incredible videos going back to the Rockefeller family, right? And the educational system. We are not brought up in school, in the education system, to train our brains to work for ourselves and to make our own money. We're trained to work for the corporates. Mm-hmm. We're trained to work for the government, make money for them, not for us.
100%. And that's why, like, I look back when people used to ask me, do you think you're like, you're born to be an entrepreneur or business owner? I said no for a while because I wanted to do all those other things, but the only thing I can do is be in business. But I didn't even realize a relatively extreme example until I was 24 years old because of all that shit that you have to do. You know what I mean? It's like when I have kids one day, I'm not going to put them in normal school, do like Montessori stuff, 100%. Get them to like, that's what life's about.
Absolutely.
Like, yeah. And it's becoming more and more obvious to certain people. So it's good that people are starting to think outside the box because life, particularly with like social media, the internet, even if you don't want to become have a business, you can be a content creator in whatever random niche you love. You can be an upcycler. You can do whatever creative, weird job that you want and earn enough money to pay the bills. And even if you're just paying the bills, but you enjoy every single day, wouldn't you rather do that than work a job you hate and maybe save an extra 20, 30 grand a year?
Any day of the week.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So early days, viral TikTok videos. Obviously it was easier to go viral again back then because less people creating. Now it's so many more people. Mm-hmm. But did you start to develop, because nowadays you might not go viral every time, but you'll still go viral. Did you start to come up with like a recipe for like what's working on TikTok to like, okay, this is going to be relatively good chance to pop off? Yeah,
I was funny because I learned pretty quickly that the most simple videos are the ones that go viral. And if you put too much thought into it, they don't, which was really strange. So I think the ones that went the most viral were packing orders. There was one video where I put like a $50 gift card for Peter Alexander in a random person's order that went viral. A video of just me using the slick stick and showing people how it works. And then just videos, of me packing orders. That's what people loved to see.
What video went the most viral? And then was it like, what video like equated to the most sales off the back of it?
Well, it's funny. The first video I ever posted on TikTok had nothing to do with Slick. That went viral. And that was a video of my dog Honey in the back of my partner's Tesla. And it was on dog mode. And I filmed her in the car and it said, "Don't worry, my owner will be back soon. The aircon's on and it's 16 degrees." That had 9 million views.
9 million?
Yeah.
Wow.
And that still to this day shows up like Tesla, TikTok pages, and that video across my page and all of the reshares would have over 100 million views by far.
That's wild.
So that really set me up on TikTok. And then from there, I think my first video was one of me putting the label on the actual bottle and sharing the behind the scenes of getting the product ready to sell. From memory, that went viral. And then, not all of the videos that went viral had anything to do with the product. During COVID, I decided to rip my bathroom apart and rebuild it and do a renovation for a bathroom that I've never done before. That was in the Daily Mail and we got a lot of PR from that whole saga. So yeah, that kind of helped me. But as soon as I started sharing more about the business, I remember one video, I can't remember which one. I think it was the one where I put the gift card in. It had like 3.4 million views. I woke up with like 35 grand in sales. Yeah.
Do you find now, 3 years down the road, are you finding that TikTok, like organic TikToks, relative to the amount of reach they get, of course, are they driving more sales than they used to or less?
Less. Yeah. Like it doesn't, I don't think it attributes to really any of our sales anymore. Yeah.
Why do you think that's changed?
I think the algorithm is very different. I think that, like you said earlier, there's a lot more creators now, and it's a lot harder to get views. Not necessarily viral videos, but even just views. Like I personally on my TikTok have like 87,000 followers, with like, I think close to 3 million likes, right? And that's mostly across my early days in Slick. Now I'll be lucky to get 3,000 views on a video. It's just changed. I don't know what it is. The algorithm of TikTok is very strange, but it's different.
It's weird. We go through periods on TikTok as well where like we will post like 10 videos and like 4 of them will go viral. And then I feel like we might have been into like TikTok jail for a little bit. Like we didn't have a video, and we'd at least usually get at least one video viral a week, like of the podcast. And there was probably like a month more, about a month. No. And then we just had one like go viral again for the first time for ages. But like the TikTok algorithm changes so much. So it's like any one channel you can't be reliant on for your business. Now, obviously viral TikToks might've been a great strategy at the start. What other things did you start to do that helped you scale?
Influencer marketing. Yeah. We dabbled obviously in paid ads. We just had a really bad experience over and over again, just agency after agency, retainer after retainer. At the end of the month, you look at the report and you go, I'm losing money. Like, what's the point? You know, so I decided to switch off all paid media in terms of Google, Facebook, Instagram, which is probably the worst thing I ever did for the business. And we're just starting to re-pick that up again now. But we relied purely on our database that we generated over the last 3 years, which is really big. And also our influencers that we collaborate with. And like I said earlier, we'd get like a 4 or 5 ROI % of return on investment on all of the influencers that we work with, because the product was so unique and affordable. So that's really what generated the sales initially when we were pure play e-com. Now, obviously, we're predominantly B2B.
Yeah. And with influencers, obviously 3 years is a long time in that world. How do you see their role? Has it changed? Like in terms of, I imagine you're getting less conversion now than you used to.
100%.
Everyone
Again,
is.
it's something we don't really do a lot of at the moment. We really had to pull back on our marketing spend for a few reasons. And the main one being that we have been partnering with some really big global retailers, and all of our capital was going into buying stock. And one thing that, and probably the biggest issue that I face on a day-to-day basis in business is cash flow, and having cash in the bank to be able to buy stock or pay for an influencer. But the issue with influencers that I personally have found is that as their following grows, their rates increase, but their conversion doesn't necessarily increase. If anything, it's going down. So we just decided, like, you know, we wanted to collaborate with one particular Australian influencer. She wanted $80,000 for a reel and a couple of stories. I'm like, that is absurd.
What's the most you've paid for a collab?
Most I've paid, oh God, who was it? I reckon 35K. I think we paid someone 35 grand for, shut up. Someone's on the horn out there. I think we paid 35 grand for a reel and a story series.
Did it break even at least?
No. We were probably, for that particular one, it was a big risk, but it was more brand awareness that we were really looking for. So that helped for sure, because then we obviously were able to collaborate with other influencers, because
off the back of that.
But that would probably be the most expensive one.
We paid 60,000 to one person. Didn't break even.
Yeah.
But it's like, you know, going into it, that is probably not. And it's like the biggest Australian influencer you could work with. But then you work with people close to them that, like siblings, or for example, who charge maybe like say $4,000 per post, and we made so much more money.
Yeah. You've got to be creative. And the problem as well, I find with a lot of these brands is they collaborate with particular influencers who might have 5, 10, 15 million followers, even 1 million followers. I mean, obviously to have someone with over 5 million followers in Australia is very rare. But if you were to collaborate with someone who has like, you know, let's say 500,000 followers and you pay them. So we worked with some micro influencers, right? And we might pay them like 2, 3, 5 grand, right? And our conversion for them was like tenfold to the big ones. But the problem is a lot of brands is they'll go work with these big guns, but they don't look at their insights. And the problem is they might have 5 million followers, but 80% of them are men. And are they going to buy a slick stick? No. Are they going to buy an in-home IPL machine? No, they're not. So yes, they might have the followers. Yes, they're a female, but it doesn't mean that they're going to make you money.
It's so important you say that. That's something that I feel like why we did so well at the start with Happy and how we did so well so quickly was obviously influencer marketing. Paid spend is how we really scaled it. But it's like I saw so many brands, and these are brands that have been in like killing it, massive followings, seemed like they were doing really well in terms of sales. You never fucking know. But it's like these are brands that are like tanning oils and like bikinis, lingerie, and they're working with all these beautiful women, right? But then it's like you look at the insights, or you just click on, not even insights, like you just click on, okay, who's liking their stuff? You scroll through, it's all guys.
All seedy men.
What?
Yeah.
Like, don't these brands think about that?
Yeah,
like
you'd think so, but I don't think they do a lot of the time.
And what we found, it's like the best ones for us, because we had a bit of a high price point product, 100 to 250K were the best for conversion.
Mm-hmm.
Over than that, like the bigger the influencer, the less close the audience is to them.
Yeah.
So it's like the less they really care or invested. And then for the smaller ones for us, it was just like, it's really worth like this with a product like ours, is it really worth sending to all these people? They're only going to drive a couple sales. Like half of them won't post it. It was really not worth the time. Whereas nowadays we are doing more micro influencer stuff because I feel like that's working more. But where does your influencer marketing strategy sit today, and how different is that to, are you still doing like a lot of micros, just gifting and stuff like that?
We do quite a bit of gifting because the slick stick is, you know, we've got great margins in that product, and it's a quite a cheap product to buy from a cost perspective. So we can afford to send out thousands of units for free. Obviously a product like yours, it's a bit more challenging because the cost of goods are a lot higher. So for us, it's a lot easier and we're prepared to lose a lot of stock in return for content or them sharing it on their socials. So UGC is obviously a strategy that we dabble in quite a lot. The big macros we don't really touch at the moment, more so because we just can't afford to risk such a large amount of capital or cash flow into working with them if we're not going to get the return. But like I mentioned, we've really put a big hold on a lot of our marketing spend, D2C. We're really focusing on our B2B, which again has its pros and cons, because year on year our D2C sales have like dramatically dropped.
It seems that way from the outside looking in.
But
no, I thought you said up when you talk about retail.
No. So direct to consumer, our e-com has drastically dropped.
Lucky you pivoted then.
Yeah. But that's only because we've reprioritized our focus. It's not a good thing. It's not a good thing. I'm not going to sit here and say that we're now focusing on B2B solely, because you don't want that. We are in competition with our retailers now, right? And our margins are so much better when we're selling direct to the consumer. We're losing 50, 60% of our margin selling to a retailer. So I've made a big mistake. I've made a really big mistake by focusing on supporting our retailers and neglecting our direct to consumers. So it's a big strategy change that we're going through at the moment to really start to build up the D2C again and nurture that, because that is our business. That's our business. Sephora, that's not our business. Yes, we're selling to them, but that's their business, right? So they could drop us tomorrow, God forbid, right? We don't have control over that. We have control over our customers and our margins and our products internally. We need to be focusing more on D2C.
The thing, for sure. And it is difficult. You only have limited resources, limited time, limited staff to do both at the same time. Ideally
100%.
You would, because like you said, you might have had however many 100% year-on-year growth with retail.
Yeah.
But the challenge is that I would imagine for a brand like yours, when CPMs are $30, $40 per thousand on Facebook and you're selling a $30, $40, $50, even $50 product, it's like,
ridiculous.
How do you make that work? And then it's so many people have had to turn off advertising. I feel like it's coming back a little bit in terms of paid, in terms on Facebook. We're getting better results now than we were 9 months ago.
Well, that's good. That's good.
9 months ago. But you just spoke about the importance of diversifying your channels. Retail, you're obviously killing it. Like every month, I feel like you're launching into a new retailer. What's the plan? How are you going to diversify your channels? You have as many retailers obviously as you can, which is awesome. But in terms of the D2C space online, what are you going to look at? What channels are you going to focus on?
Look, it's a really tricky one because any business owner that I know who is pure play B2B, you ask them about their D2C and it's minuscule. It's 5-10% of their sales. So, our business goal, my business goal for Slick is to be in all the major retailers globally. We want to be like a B2B powerhouse. We want to be in all the Sephora doors. We want to be in Ulta. We want to be in Target. We want to be in CVS. I want to be in Douglas across the whole of Europe. This is the background on my phone. Like they're all the retailers, right?
Put that to your camera.
That's where we want to be. We want to be in all the major retailers globally. But and by doing so, and we're doing it, like it's happening. Like we're in conversation. We've got 27 deals on the table at the moment with retailers around the world. Like it's happening. But the problem with that is when it's so accessible in retail, customers are more inclined to go to Coles and buy a Slick Stick on their weekly grocery shop as opposed to jumping online and buying one and having to pay for shipping. Right? So it's the convenience as well. So you have to find that happy medium where you're still making good revenue online, but you've got to understand that B2B is always going to be the beast.
Exactly.
So it's about finding that happy medium. And right now we're probably 85% B2B, 15 D2C would be our sales.
That's so crazy. Like the journey you go through as well. We were 100% e-com for so long as well. Now like retail, it's like I see in a year's time, we'll probably be doing double what we're doing e-com, and we've always been an e-com first brand.
Love that.
Through retail, you know what I mean? Now I saw your phone. I love that. Is visualization part of like your process and like those sort of reminders, like what does that do for you and how have you used those throughout your journey?
How many times a day do I look at my phone? It's the first thing. I see the Sephora logo, Europe, boots look fantastic, Superdrug. I look at these brands and it's funny because I haven't updated this for a while and we've actually launched in a few of these retailers since I made this background. So that's also, I keep them there because it's like Urban Outfitters. Like we've launched in Urban Outfitters. Like I've ticked that off. I'm a very visual person. That motivates me a lot. That looking at that screensaver, I'm like, shit, like that's the dream. Like imagine what my life could be like if we do that and we achieve that. Not necessarily from a monetary perspective, but like the feeling of achieving a goal is just, it's so important because as a business owner, 99% of my day is just solving problems and it's failures and it's mistakes and it's just shit. Right?
Like when I walked in today, you're like, sorry, just putting out another fire.
Yeah. So we've just like perfect example today, we've just printed, our factory's just confirmed 50,000 new Slick Sticks have just been completed and Sephora have just come back and said, the Arabic on the back of pack is wrong. So that's just a perfect example of a day in my life, right? So when you get the 1% wins, you've got to thrive on those because otherwise you just go mental. Like my life, it's just stress.
It's stress, but like you're addicted to it. Like
100%.
You can't do it any other way.
I wouldn't change it for the world.
A mistake like that, 50,000 labels printed incorrectly, how much do you think that'll cost your business?
It's not the end of the world because previously before we put Arabic on pack, Sephora were just putting a little label on the back of the box, which costs us like 1 or 2 cents per label. So they'll just have to continue to do that till we, go through all this stock and have to reorder and then fix the next one, hopefully. So it's not the end of the world, but in the moment you're like, oh my God, how does this happen?
And with dealing with mistakes like this, you just get, and that's the thing, like when you first get into business, like you said, everything just works so easily. If you have a really good product, everything's too easy. Then you get into business for a few years, you realize there's never going to be long where everything's going well. Whether it's a week, 2 weeks, a month, if you're lucky before something really big goes wrong, not really big, but there's always stuff that you have to overcome. Things are always going wrong. Mm-hmm. How did you adjust your mindset to that? Because I remember for me, it was like, why would I want to put myself through so much stress? How did you adjust your mindset to that? Now it's like, I just know you got to be grateful for that because that's part of the the process, part of the privilege of running a business.
I keep reminding myself if it was easy, everyone would do it, right? If it was easy to start a business and launch a product and go into Sephora and all of this, everyone would have a brand in there. You know, the hurdles and the loop, like all of the things that you've got to do to get a product, say, into Sephora Middle East, it's incredible. 99% of people wouldn't bother. They just wouldn't do it. But when you're so fixated on that end goal of walking into Sephora and seeing your product on the shelf, like that is a drug. That feeling is like nothing you've ever experienced. So you'll do anything and everything that you have to do to be able to go through that addictive feeling. It is literally like a drug. When I walked into Sephora Middle East the first time and saw my product in the biggest Sephora store in the world, I literally, like I've never taken drugs, but I could almost relate that that'd be like shooting up. It was just the most ecstatic feeling I've ever felt.
And it's rewarding because there's so much work that goes into it, even not just the pitching and making the decks, but it's like once you're onboarding our partnerships manager, Steph, shout out to Steph, she's the best. The amount of stuff she has to work through just to onboard, like weeks and weeks and weeks. And like, it's
I'm
not
the same.
easy.
I've got Tracy, my global sales manager. I don't know how she does it.
Yeah.
I would never want her job.
Yeah.
But yeah, there's so much work involved.
So rewarding seeing a product you created in stores of like some of the biggest retailers in the world.
Mm-hmm.
What does the process look like to get stock? Like you were talking just before we started, the amazing thing about what you've done in terms of retail, no distributors.
None.
All direct to the retailers, which is extremely difficult a lot of the time. What's the process like from no contact to getting stocked?
I think everyone has a different journey. But for me personally, the first couple of retailers, they actually approached us, which I think is pretty unheard of. I guess it came down to the virality of the product online. Our first major retailer was Coles, full distribution in Australia. And that came about from one of their junior buyers contacting me through LinkedIn. And she goes, can you email me, your brand deck? And her email was @gmail.com. And I was like, this is a scam. Like she's not legit. But then when I looked at her actual profile, she was a junior category manager at Coles. I was like, shit, this is actually legit. So that was our first partnership. And then, we launched into Universal Store, Style Runner, and a few others in Australia. They all kind of happened quite easily. The other ones I love trade shows. We do quite a few trade shows every year. We did one in Vegas last year, Cosmoprof. From the back of that, we got a few retailers in the US. We've just launched in Von Maur, Urban Outfitters. We're in conversations with a couple of other retailers on that. And we just came back from Italy, Bologna, Cosmoprof about a month ago. So we've got 27 deals on the table from that. So that's how we build those connections personally. But there's so many ways. I mean, approaching buyers directly on LinkedIn, using platforms like Range Me to get in touch with the bigger retailers. I'm not going to sit here and say I'm an expert because I look at you and go, how the fuck did you get in Ulta? Right? We have emailed them. We've done brand submissions on Range Me. We haven't even had a conversation with someone to even start that process. So, I think the biggest one for us is probably Sephora Middle East, and everyone says, how did you get in there? And why the Middle East? Why not Australia? And again, that came on the back of we were stocking our product in a startup beauty online retailer in the Middle East a few years back, very small volumes. I don't even know if they're still around, but the girl that worked for that business moved across to Sephora Middle East, and she said to the category manager, you've got to talk to Mia about Slick Stick. It's the best. So that was a word of mouth opportunity. But it's interesting because people go, why aren't you in Sephora Australia, or why aren't you in Sephora Europe or America? Unfortunately, they're not all the same business. I'm pretty sure Sephora Australia is owned by the LVMH group, whereas the one in the Middle East is owned by, I can't remember, I think it's like the Chambard group or something like that. So even though we've pitched the brand to Sephora Australia and said, look, we're record numbers at the moment over there. We're the number one selling hair care product in the category in the whole of the Sephora Middle East business. Sephora Australia replies saying, that's amazing, congratulations. We don't see scope for this product in our doors. So it's hard. It's really hard.
Sephora didn't want us either.
Yeah, 80% of our probably more, 90% of the brands that we pitch, they say no. So people see us launching in Sephora and Urban Outfitters and all these global retailers, but they don't know how many have said no to us to get to that.
It's crazy that you didn't, like, for us, I understood, like, they don't, like, why the hardest part about a product like ours, $300 price point, it's like, it's not a consumable product. People want products that are bringing people into their stores every day. But something like Slick Stick, something that someone's going to repurchase so often.
This is going to be a controversial thing to say, but I feel like in Australia, there's a lot of tall poppy syndrome. And when I, as a female founder, will pitch a brand in the US, they jump up and down. They love it. Here, you pitch to a brand and usually they're female buyers in the same age category as me, and they've probably seen me on socials and they are like, nah, it's not for us.
I don't think it's controversial to say there's tall poppy syndrome in Australia at all.
Yeah, bad.
It exists a lot. I mean, maybe it's even, it's so funny. Like, a lot of females will talk about, like, female empowerment and encourage and champion each other.
It doesn't exist in this country.
It's not really like that from what I've seen.
Really
not just you, from other friends in business. Like, I think in Australia, like you said, with that tall poppy thing, there is a lot of jealousy that goes around, and it's like, it just triggers people because there's a few, like, and you've just said you spoke to Sisterwood, Renna. She's amazing. Renna's one of those people that you can call and ask for her formulator and she'll tell you, right? I'm not saying to do that, but she's so open book and she genuinely wants to see other people succeed. She's American though, right? They're different to us. Another person who's like that is Tara and Steve from Mermaid Hair. I can get on the phone to Tara and we're in the same category. Like, we're hair, right? I can get on the phone to Tara or Steve and ask them a question about anything and they will tell me their contact to their distributors. They genuinely want me to succeed. Whereas I've contacted some other female founders, and I obviously won't name them, and be like, do you have because I noticed that the shelf ready packaging in Coles or on a big retailer, you need to have the special type of cardboard for the product to sit on the shelf. And we wanted to bring that onshore if possible. And I was like, who's your SFP manufacturer? And they're like, I don't want to tell you. It's a cardboard. We're in completely different categories. You telling me who makes your cardboard shelf trays isn't going to jeopardize your success. Yep. You know what I mean? So you got to be really careful who you associate with, because 99% of people don't want you to succeed, and that's the reality. Yep. So you got to make sure that the people that you keep close to you, they genuinely want you to win. And I can hand on heart say that the ones around me do, but there's a lot out there that don't. For sure. And like, it's a general rule, but yeah, there are so many amazing people that are so willing to help people succeed and want to see people succeed. Now, part of the journey of growing a business is obviously hiring a team. Mm-hmm. Now, I've had a lot of really great hires and some that were definitely not. What are some of the things you've learned from hiring?
I will only ever use a recruiter moving forward, because at the end of the day, I only know what I know and I don't know what I don't. So if I'm hiring a finance manager, for instance, and I'm sitting there and interviewing them about finance, I don't have a fucking idea what to ask them. I don't know how to interview someone for that role because I don't know that role, which is why I'm hiring for it, right? So having someone that can help me with recruiting, they know what I need. They know who the right person is for that role, because I've hired some pretty dud people before, and unfortunately that's just purely on the back of me hiring the wrong people because I didn't know.
What do you think you did wrong? Was it the skill or more the attitude?
Usually skill. Yeah. Okay. One thing that I've found, I'll never hire someone. Well, I wouldn't say never, but I would be reluctant to hiring someone that's come from corporate, because I find that they usually, let's say you hire someone in marketing that's come from a big corporate company. There's 50 marketing managers. There's generally 5 people working on one project, and that project, usually the span of that project is over 6 to 12 months. We're very different in the startup world. I need that project done next week, and I need you to work on it on your own, and I need your job, your role to be so diverse. Yes, you're hired as the marketing manager, but you may need to help me pack some orders. You may need me. You may need me. I may need you to help, test some products. I might need your input in product packaging. Like we're a small team here at Slick, but we're a very diverse team. And we are all very collaborative in our work. So that's the most important thing for us. We've had people come in as a marketing manager and you ask them, well, that's not part of my role, right? So I will only look at people moving forward who have come from a startup or a small business because they understand collaborative working and they know what hard work is. There's none of this rolling in at 9:10, going getting a coffee, sitting down. By the time you actually open your emails, it's 10 o'clock. Then you go take your 45-minute lunch break and then you're out the door at 5 o'clock on the dot. Like that doesn't sit with me at all. So that's what I look for when I'm hiring people.
Yeah, I feel like I've made the same mistake hiring from massive global companies, like from marketers. And it's like, I don't think they might've been brilliant at their job there, but like realistically, no one really knows how well they're doing apart from their like they don't know what they're doing, how that affects the bottom line or the top line of the business.
Yeah.
Everyone is so accountable in their roles in a small business. Like everyone is so vital to the survival or the thrival of the death of the business. Like you need to be accountable for this stuff. And it's not even having the business yourself, but being a marketing manager in an e-commerce business, you're the second most important person in the business.
Yeah.
Arguably at times you're going to be the most important because if you do an amazing job, everything else is going to be so much easier. But it's like the accountability and like actually being accountable for the results. If you do something or you don't, the business is going to survive because of it and it's going to do really well or it's going to fucking fail.
Mm-hmm.
What about hiring from an agency? Because obviously it's closer to our world, but I've had also not great result because like hiring from agency, like what do you do? Like they'll come to you with all this amazing reporting. I'm like, why do you do all that for?
It's too much. It's too much reporting. I don't want reports. I just want the job to get done. So for instance, I've got an in-house graphic designer now, probably the best hire because she's just incredible. I don't know how I'd live without her. Having to go to a design agency and write out the brief and then they come back with their scope and then there's the planning and then there's the mood board and you just want one fucking logo. Why does it take 6 weeks? Just do me the logo in 5 minutes. Like it doesn't need to take that long. And I think when you're in the startup world, you want everything done yesterday because you are just like a hamster on a hamster wheel. You're running at 100 miles an hour, 24/7. We don't have time for shit kicking around. Do you know what I mean? So agencies are great when you can't afford to put someone on PAYG full-time or part-time, whatever it is. But for me, I try and avoid them. I'd rather have someone here doing it full-time and that's their sole focus, not working on 20 brands at once.
Yeah. And like I've had to make some adjustments myself as well. We had at one point, there was like 12 or 14 staff. Now we have like 5 of us internally and like a really close agency partner, but not like a big agency. I don't ever want to work with a big agency again. You're just a number. They don't know you. They don't care. They don't really know what moves the needle for the business. But at that point, I was so much unhappy. I hate like doing it like that. So it's like, if you're going to be in business, this is not the way that anyone will tell you in any business book. It's like hire around who suits you and who's going to work with the way you work. Like you're not here, like you're taking all the risk. You're in business. Like you said, there's a lot of challenges you have to go by. What I found worked really well was hiring people that worked with the way that I'd want to work and hiring from my network was actually the best thing I ever did because like, the person, their values, how they work. Like Steph as well, I'll just get her to do all this random stuff, like not necessarily in her JD. And I'll just flick it. This is what I'm thinking. Yep. Sweet. You try and do that to like someone that come from an agency. They're like, no, I need a brief. I need dot points, this, that, the purpose. I'm like, I can't, I don't have time.
Yeah.
So there's a million things that you got to do as a founder of a business. Like sometimes like you have this like sporadic, chaotic energy and like to get someone that can take that and be like, sweet, I get that you got a lot on your plate and be able to go and action that is the best. And the 5 o'clock thing was something that burned me for so long because I came from sales even when I was in corporate and it's like, can't leave at 5. You know what I mean? So it's like, I had to adjust to that. I hated it, but it bothered me for so much. And it still does to a point, but I'm just like, for the good ones, if they leave at 5, but they've done their job in the day, it's fine. But if it's every day and it's clearly you're working off the clock, it's not outcome focused.
Absolutely.
Then it becomes a bit of an issue.
I'm very flexible with my staff. I've got some of my more senior staff. They get to choose their hours. If they want to start at 7 and leave at 4 or 3, that's fine. I don't care. You can work from Mars for all I care. If you're getting the job done, I'm fine with it. It's probably the more junior ones that kind of take the piss that you worry about. You know what I mean? Which I don't have any of them now. That I've got such a great team.
It's better, right?
Yeah.
Just have less staff, pay them a little bit more. They're a bit older and everything's so much smoother.
Because I'm not a micromanager. People ask me what sort of boss I am. I'm not going to be over your shoulder saying, what are you doing now? What are you doing now? What are you working on at the moment? I will go in my office and you won't see me all day because I'm going to have my own shit that I've got to deal with. But I want to know that on our, Monday morning whips, you can sit down and you can tell me everything that you've done in the last week and what you're working on moving forward. And I'm so content with that.
Same.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's different. Like if you wanted to build, I don't know what your goals are, but like I used to think I wanted to build like $100 million company, $1 billion company, but it's like, not that I don't want to do that anymore, but like, I don't want to be a CEO of a 100-person.
No way. I can't wait to be able to afford to hire a CEO.
Oh yeah. Same. I couldn't do it. But it takes a long time I think it's an ego thing to realize that I don't think the owner of the business should be the smartest person in the business or is ever.
No way. Yeah. I feel like I'm the dumbest person in the business.
Sometimes so do I.
I genuinely do.
Yeah.
I sit down with my sales team and I'm like, I don't know what you're talking about. I sit down with finance. I'm like, I don't even know how to read that P&L right now. Like I feel so stupid sometimes. And that's one thing that I'm so grateful that I've realized is that you need to hire someone better than you if you want your business to succeed. And, as a 32-year-old woman, I just got engaged. I want to start a family eventually. And the thought of doing that whilst being a CEO, founder, director of a business, I think that's impossible.
Yeah.
Personally, I actually spoke about this on my Instagram the other night. I don't know how that is genuinely possible. And it terrifies me because this business is my life. Like I love this business. It is everything. Morning and night, 24/7. That's all I think about is the success of this brand. When you bring a child into the world, all you want to do is focus on that. I don't know how the hell it is humanly possible as a female to run a company and have a family. I really would love someone to challenge me and tell me otherwise. But me personally, I don't know how that is humanly possible.
Yeah,
unless I was to hire, someone to take over my role and have so much faith and trust in them that they will continue to take the business, onwards and upwards. But again, I just don't know how it's possible.
Yeah, like good people. Like I've chatted to my ops manager briefly this morning. Like usually, he's one of my best mates as well. I had one of my best mates do all the operation stuff, all the stuff he does with Excel blows my mind. I don't even know what he just did, but cool. Thanks for doing that for me. But it's like before, like 2 years ago with Happy Skin Co, I couldn't be here for 3 days. We've been here for 3 days. And like I've checked my Happy Skin email once a day, just in the morning, flicking through, just seeing if there's anything urgent. And then I don't even have to worry. 2 years ago, I could never do that. And it's not the life I wanted.
Like even now, an hour into a podcast, I'm like, how many emails that I need to action? Like what fires that need to be put out? It's just non-stop. And I don't think that's viable. That's not healthy. Mm-hmm. It's not viable. So yeah, I definitely need to work on that side of things.
Work-life balance, like you said, you can't even imagine it at this point. How do you manage having a life? Like as you're engaged, as people know. So it's like, it seems like you have an understanding partner. He's hungry, you're hungry, you want to build something. But how do you manage still having a life when you're, like you said, so passionate about building the business?
It's hard. And especially someone like Justin, my partner Justin, he is very smart. He takes on a lot of my stress in business as well. And I wouldn't be surprised if one day he joined the team and, came on board and helped me because, a lot of the behind the scenes stuff, he is there as my sounding board. He's my problem solver. I don't like to admit it very often, but he's very, very good at what he does. But I feel like, having him so involved and invested in my business emotionally, it can definitely have, a negative impact on relationships and your life. So, I come home from here, I get home like 6:30. And for the next 4 hours that I'm awake, I'm just talking about my problems. Just talking about business, things I need to do. We need to get a VAT in the Netherlands. We've got stock on the way to Europe. We've got, we can't get our VAT in the UK. And I'm on the phone to the HMRC in England at 8 o'clock at night because they're just waking up. You've got Sephora starting at 5 p.m. our times when they're in the office at 9 a.m. their time. So it's literally 24/7 when you're running a global business.
Yeah.
And it's stressful. Saturdays here in Australia are Fridays still in America. So I'm still working because all of our US retailers and our US warehouse have got issues and problems and questions. So it's full on.
100%.
It's full on.
It could work. Like it's always risky to bring like partners into businesses, but Raquel, like who was Elijah, she brought her husband Adam in and she said, one of the best things she's ever done.
Yeah.
It's like if you have good people, obviously you know him back like all the way.
Yeah, but you still got to protect yourself.
For sure.
Yeah.
For
and I'm not stupid. But I know a lot of people, amazing partnerships like Mermaid Hair, Steve and Tara, they're an amazing duo. They make it work. You know, I know a lot of couples that have done great things, but yeah, it's nerve-wracking. It's scary because I'm a very realistic person. I love Justin and I see my life with him, but shit happens and the divorce rate is very high. So you've got to be careful. You've got to really protect yourself. Yeah.
Now
I'm logical. That's the one.
I've been doing some, because we have a lot of ecom people on, I've been doing some like advice questions, just get your thoughts on ecom or some certain experiences you've had before we wrap up. Now, first question I've been asking everyone, and it's been a different answer all the time, is what's one thing that you know now that you wish you knew at the start? Like one aha moment, one thing that you learned that you're like, fuck, that's a game changer.
Oh, that's a good question. I've got a lot of things, but one in particular, I feel like it's a bit of a boring answer, but it comes down to just making sure you're legally sound, making sure that everything is set up correctly. Whether that's even from a trademark perspective. You know, when I first started Slick Stick, I didn't want to pay the money to get a trademark, right? Thankfully, after a year I did, and I've now obtained Slick Stick because we have all these competitors in the market now who have, created their own name for the product, but everyone still calls it a Slick Stick. Like we created the identity for that particular product. So when Schwarzkopf came out with their got to be anti-flyaway hair wand, thankfully we've got the trademark Slick Stick, so they can't call it, but all their customers will still like, oh, I bought this Schwarzkopf Slick Stick. Yeah. You know what I mean? So things like that, you never know where your business is going to go. So protect yourself legally at the start. One thing that I didn't do initially was get the Madrid protocol, which means I can have the trademark globally. Now we're having to trademark in each region, right? And it's a fucking nightmare.
And it's costing you
costing me
more at least.
30 grand to trademark one product. So my advice, which I wish I knew earlier, was just protect yourself because you never know. This could turn into a beast. Protect yourself legally.
Are you trademarking Slick Stick or Slick Hair Co? What's your
Slick Stick?
Yeah, around that.
Yeah. So you trademark the logo Slick Hair Company, but it's probably a bit too broad to trademark the name of the brand. But the actual, like I said, we own that IP for that particular product. So Slick Stick, it's like Band-Aid, right? There's Elastoplast, there's Plaster, there's, all these different brands, but we all call it a Band-Aid. Slick Stick's the Band-Aid for this product. Yeah.
We've actually, on rookie error on our end, not knowing anything, try trademarking Happy Skin Co.
Not easy.
We did, but
really?
Yeah. We've got trademarks in all our main markets, but
not easy.
The amount of money we've had to spend doing certain things.
But then there's one thing getting a trademark. There's another thing contesting a trademark infringement, right?
Yeah, that's what I mean. Yeah.
Someone could just go and do it anyway, and then you've actually got to pay to fight that. Mm-hmm. So
yeah, exactly. You have to pay, people can breach your IP. You've done
every
the
day
right
of the
thing,
week. Yeah.
And then you have to spend money, and fuck, lawyers are expensive.
Yeah.
Yeah, but it's things you learn. Like one thing, and this is because obviously me and George, he was with me. He built the business for the first year and then he left. And his new business did a completely random, unique name. He's like, I'm never going through that process again.
Yeah,
but you don't know when you start, So
no, you don't know.
Happy Skin, like the two most fucking common words.
Yeah.
So yeah, you learn a lot of lessons going through it. Now, what do you think that the most important trait a founder needs to have to be successful is?
You need to learn and understand your strengths, but most importantly, know your weaknesses. And that was one thing, even to this day, I put so much pressure on myself when I don't understand something. And I get myself into a real mental state where I'm like, I don't get this and I need to, and I don't deserve to own this business if I don't understand how to fucking read that spreadsheet. So I've learnt recently to really be able to take a step back and be like, it's okay. You don't have to know everything. You don't need to. You hire people. You need to know, be smart enough that when you realize that you're not good at something, hire someone to come in who's better at it than you. That's something that I am still adapting and learning every single day.
Yeah. I feel like, it's hard at the start because your ego's like, no, I want to be the best at everything. I want to know everything. Now I'm like, if the business runs and there's going to be people that are so much better at doing the certain things, I think it's a good thing. You know what I mean? It's like, what sort of life do you want to have as well? Like, giving up a little bit of control and putting trust in people is scary, but it's going to it's 100% essential to take your business to the next level. Now, another thing that I get asked a lot, like from people that hit me up, Dylan, should I drop ship or should I build a brand? What's your thoughts on that?
Personally, I like to build brands because you can sell brands. You can't sell a drop shipping business. So for me personally, I like to build the identity of a brand. I like to create the community. I like the optics of looking out into a business personally. And I don't think drop shipping is sustainable over a long period of time.
It's becoming less and less sustainable. Meta don't want drop shippers on there. They make it extremely difficult. But yeah, have you ever drop shipped, or for every business from the start? I
definitely dabbled in it initially, but it's not sustainable. You make some money and then it dies off. It's not long term. Whereas I see Slick as like a 5-year, 10-year plan. Yeah.
And what's the big vision for Slick? How big do you want to take it?
I'd like to sell this company one day for over 100 mil. That's my plan. That's my goal. We're about to launch full hair care. Like we're expanding the product range. I want to become a well-known hair care brand across the world. That's my goal. That's my vision.
What motivates you? Like that's an awesome goal, but what's underneath that? What motivates you to want to do that?
I've always been very driven by money. I've always been fascinated by successful people. And that's not just in my adult years. That's as a kid. Like I used to look at someone driving in a Lambo at 6 years old and go, why is he driving a Lambo, but he's driving a Holden Commodore? What's he done in his life and what hasn't he done in his life? That's always been very interesting to me. So that's I think probably my biggest driving factor is I don't want to live a mediocre life.
You think a part of that is because you grew up very humbly?
Probably. Yeah. I watched my parents argue over money, and I always wanted to be able to support my family, and I want to be able to take my family on, European holidays and, yachts and PJs. Like that's my vision. I know it's very materialistic, but that for me, I want to live a very comfortable life. I want to live a successful, happy life, which obviously doesn't always equate to money. But for me, it's like I want to be able to do really cool things and buy nice things and support people that I love.
The thing is, a lot of people won't admit that though. Everyone does. I was saying to the girls before, they are. You can see it so clearly. As you said, Rena. They are just angels. They just want to help people. But it's like nowadays, everyone makes up this bullshit reason why they started their business.
Yeah, they just want to give back.
The world.
Yeah, give back.
There's nothing wrong with building a business that adds value. It's an exchange of value. They pay you, you give them a product that does something.
I don't think I've ever met someone in business who honestly would not say, if there was a gun to their head and they tell me the truth, why are you in business? Everyone is there to make money. I don't care what anyone says. We all want to be wealthy. We want to be comfortable. We want to be able to buy assets for our family members. We want to be able to support our family. We want to live comfortably. Yes, 100%. There's more than that. I want to be able to inspire people. I want to be able to inspire future female founders. I want to be able to give to charity. I want to be able to do things like that totally. But I can't do that without making money. So the real reason is money. And then there's a world of things that I can do with that.
Yeah. For me, it's like obviously money, but like it's freedom. The reason I want money, but the freedom to do what I want, whenever I want, as much as I can. Like we live 80 to 100 years. Like, and this is something that I've had ingrained in me since a little kid, for good or for worse at certain times. Like I've never been able to, this is going back from 3 years old. I've never been able to do things that I can't see the point of doing. Like I just don't fucking know why people do it.
I agree.
I just want to be able to do what I love. And like, obviously the more money I have, the more people I can help and inspire.
Absolutely.
Do you know what I mean? But it's like the ability to wake up every day. And it's like, I don't measure myself anymore by like how much money we make or how much money is in my bank account. It's like, how much do I enjoy what I do every single day? But it just happens the things I want to do require me to have money. Do you know what I mean? And I think money's a really taboo topic, and like it gets thrown around.
Is it though? Like why?
Yeah, that's what I mean. It's not to me, but it gets presented like that.
Because the people that are saying that, you shouldn't care so much about money, they don't have it.
Yeah.
And if they had the chance to have it, their opinion would be very, very, very different. Everyone wants more money. I believe that's fact.
They do, yeah. But
they won't admit that that's what they want, because of course there's more to life than happiness doesn't come from money. I get that. But I'd rather be crying in the back of a fucking Lambo than on a bus.
The thing is, like, if you have, like most people, a lot of people's problems though come, and it's so funny. Like, obviously money doesn't buy happiness, but if you're like, I just think if you've got the money to do whatever you want, you can find happiness.
Yeah. You can go on really cool health retreats.
But you can travel the world.
You can get the best therapists.
You can travel the world. Let's say you got $100 million in the bank, but you're unhappy. What's going to make you happy? Figure that out.
Yeah.
If it's creating art, if it's painting,
if it's giving back.
If it's giving back, you can go and do that.
100%.
You know what I mean? I know mental health is something I'm very aware of, and people struggling, and it can be a chemical thing, and that's different. But a lot of people, when they are depressed, it's just a rut that they're stuck in. And they feel stuck and they don't feel a way out of it. You can change your fucking life for the better. And like, that's part of why I want to do the podcast, why I do mentoring to help people. It's like, people want to complain that life's so hard, but you don't need to do that. For one, it's stupid, but it's like, you can change your life too. Like, I don't have to like be like, nah, you're a fucking loser. You can either way, you can fucking do it.
100%.
Everyone has the opportunity. If you live in Australia, whether you don't have money or you do, you have privilege. I know the word privilege gets thrown around, particularly me, I'm a white male,
and
you're privileged.
I believe equal opportunity.
You do.
Yeah.
You do. So it's like the control is in your hands, and it's like, go get yours. You know what I mean? Now let's wrap it up. We've been doing something on this trip where one of the last guests leaves a question for you. So I've got one last question for you before we wrap this up. This question's from the Hey Bud Boys. Where is it? Let me get it. Okay, he said, throughout your journey, this is from Alex, one of their co-founders, throughout your journey, when you found yourself in the lowest moments, what advice would you give to yourself back then to get through it?
Oh, wow. Valium. No, I think it all comes back to your why and why you started this business in the first place. And it's easier said than done, because I go through many, many troughs in business and days where I just don't want to get out of fucking bed. I'm like, this is too much. This is too hard. This is too stressful. I'm like, you should see my neck at the moment. I'm covered in a stress rash. I've had to cover it with concealer. My whole neck is literally look like I've got 50 hickeys. I've just blown up in this stress.
Engaged.
I'm just covered in this stress rash at the moment because it's so full on. I've got so much going on at the moment, good and bad, more bad than good, really. Like, that's business. But it's just kind of pulling yourself away from that current situation and just looking at the bigger picture, reminding yourself why you're doing this, and just try and get yourself back on the path. That would be my advice.
That's really good advice. And like, sometimes perspective, all you need to do is look back at how far you've come from like sitting on your floor, wrapping the stickers around the things. Like, how many slick sticks have you sold now, do you think?
We've sold over 500,000 units.
Over 500,000 slick sticks.
Yeah.
Like, that existed because you created it.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like,
100%.
It can be really easy because I'm as well. I always want more. I want to achieve more. I want to do more cool things. And for me, it's becoming less about money because I have money in the bank. It's more about what cool shit can I do like this? Well, I love doing this. You know what I mean? But if I want to do stuff like this for the rest of my life, I need to, obviously make money. So I feel like that is tricky, like getting caught up in the stress of doing shit, but like you've already achieved so much. And do you feel proud of yourself?
I do. Yeah. We've just moved into this beautiful new office. I walk in the lift every day and I'm like, I've created this. So I'm definitely proud of myself, 110%. But I also put a lot of pressure on myself as well to achieve more.
I'm going to say that you seem like you put a lot of pressure on yourself.
So much.
Really high expectations.
Very too high.
Do you ever beat yourself up when you don't do things right, or like?
Of course. Yeah, totally. I punish myself. I get really angry. And I make myself break out in a stress rash. And I get frustrated when I don't understand something. That's my biggest thing. So it's a learning curve. I'm such an amateur in business compared to this world and the entrepreneurs and founders in this world. I'm so amateur status. And I'm so willing to admit that. I get nervous even coming on these sorts of podcasts. I'm like, what do I know? What do I know? But I do know that what I've created so far is admirable. Like, people do want to know how I've done it, which is why I'm so open to sharing. But yeah, I've got so much more to learn. And that's why I love podcasts like this, because I you learn so much from people. But one thing you do learn is you resonate so much with other founders. At the end of the day, none of us know what the fuck we're doing. None of us have any idea. But one thing that we do is we put one foot in front of the other and we figure it out.
Keep trying.
Just keep trying. You'll make it work. You will find a solution. Yeah.
That other stuff you're just talking about, I know it's hard when you go about this goal. You want to be in all these retailers, $100 million business. But I know it's hard to balance so many things, but what you're just talking about, how, you can be really hard on yourself. Is that another type of goal that you have like over the next few years of business to get better at the soft stuff with yourself as well?
I want to give myself a break emotionally. It's stressful. I really struggle with it. And I want to be able to sit back and go, it's okay not to know everything. It's not possible to know everything. So that is, of course, that's a goal. I need to figure that shit out.
Oh, we all do. I think about it a lot, and I've still got a lot of work to do. And like I said, I've done things that a lot of the people aspire to. It's like, I know what I know, but there's a million things I don't know. You know what I mean? So
and that's okay. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So, Mia, thanks for your time so much. Where's the best place if anyone wants to see what you're doing, whether yourself or the business? Where's the best place people can check you out?
So I love sharing my business journey on probably Instagram, just at Mia Plessic. Although I'm so busy, I haven't been sharing as much recently, but I definitely like to share as much as I can.
And the business, is it Slick Hair or
Slick Hair Co?
Slick Hair Co. Instagram, TikTok.
Yeah.
Cool. We'll get you to leave a question for our next guest.
Okay.
Which is going to be in Sydney, meant to be the Melbourne one. So you got a bit of a spoiler as who it'll be.
Okay.
But anything you can think of, it can be business, it can be mindset, it can be process, whatever. Exciting. Oh, we'll get you to write it down after.
Okay. I don't have to think about it on the spot. Okay, good. Because I want it to be a juicy one.
Yeah. Cool. Fuck it. Done. Melbourne, last podcast recorded. We made it. I can go home and sleep for 10 hours tonight.
I love it. Thanks for having me.
No, you're the best. So congratulations on success so far. And I'm excited to watch you guys get in every retailer in the world, because it seems that way.
Let's do it.
Cool.
Thanks.
All right, done, boys. Well done. Let's go home.
All right, guys, thank you so much for listening. If you enjoyed this episode or you got something out of it, do yourself a favor, do me a favor, do your friends a favor and share this with them, and they can come along on this journey with us. Thanks again, and I'll see you next time.